the Africa Research and Impact Network, where they were discussing climate proofing, locally led adaptation solutions amongst vulnerable groups in sub-Saharan Africa. So as we're about to kick off, I'd like to welcome everyone to the session by Slum Dwellers International Kenya. We will be hearing more about inclusive, community-led climate change adaptation financing in urban and peri-urban informal settlements. We're delighted to have you, and I just want to share and alert you for those who are joining for the first time today, that this program of events, the Africa Regional Harvest Program of Events, is part of a broader program, part of COP27, and we're feeding information from locally led, not only locally led, but from community-based, underrepresented and underheard voices. We're taking those key messages from various constituencies who are not usually given an opportunity to share their reflections on the global stage. We're collecting those information and key messages, and we're taking them up to COP27 in Egypt. So welcome to everyone. And we are very excited for an informative and an engaging session with SDI Kenya. And I'm going to bring it back to, I'm not sure who Zizi is going to be facilitating for us today.
That's me.
Kevin will be facilitating.
Pardon?
Kevin is here.
Kevin, all right. Hi, Kevin. So I'm bringing it back to you, and then I'll take back from you when the session is ended, just to close us off. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda, for the good introduction to the session. I would also like to welcome everyone to this session on the on inclusive community-led climate change adaptation financing in urban and peri-urban informal settlement. The session will be led by SDI Kenya. And so I will quickly take you through the introduction to the speakers. Today's speaker, we will have Eva Mushiri from Mathare Informal Settlement. We'll also have Byron from Nakuru, Naivasha. We'll have Lizanne Onyango, who is also based in Kisumu. We'll also have Jane Wairutu, who is the programs person in Slum Dwellers International Kenya, Muungano na Vijiji. And we'll also have myself, Kevin Stanley, who I am the youth programs person. So we will have 4 sessions. The first session will share videos that have been developed by the young people from the 3 counties, that is Nairobi, Nakuru, and Kisumu. The videos will talk about cities and urbanization. They will talk about efforts that different communities are taking to localize and unlock the climate funds. And then we'll also have a video that is showing some of the actions that the communities are taking to address the climate change issues. Then the second session will have a panel discussion. We'll discuss 3 issues. The first one is on cities and urbanization. The second one is on climate financing and investment. The third one is the role of the young people and women in the climate change space. And then we'll also have an overview of urbanization and cities and climate financing. Thereafter, we'll have 2 breakout rooms with 2 questions. The first question will be, and that is room 1, will be on what collaborative approaches do or can communities use to influence existing climate action policy. The second room will be on what adaptation strategies will help promote sustainable development among the women and the young people. Thereafter, we will hear feedback from the discussion breakout rooms. We'll have 2 rapporteurs that will be guided by Eva Mushiri and Byron. And then the last session will be the question and answer session. We will take questions from the presentation, from the panel, from the breakout rooms to basically have an all-inclusive session. So I would like me to invite Jacqueline Waithaka, who is our technical person, to share the 3 videos for now as we start up the session. Welcome, Jackie.
We can't hear your sound, Jackie.
My name is Eva Mushiri. I come from Mathare, Kosovo, Nairobi. I'm a community leader, a youth leader, and also a federation member. So in Mathare, there have been increase in population due to urbanization, people in search of livelihoods due to the high cost of living. If you have a relative who is in an informal settlement or an area within Nairobi, you could get him or her accommodating you from the rural areas so that you may come and search for livelihoods. So Mathare has had increase in population because in the 90s and 2000, during our time that we were growing, we had places as playgrounds, but now we no longer have the places. The places are occupied with houses, which are used as source of income with the structure owners. And also the community has marginalized services. We are really marginalized. We don't have enough services. We have less sanitation facilities. We have poor infrastructure. Our housing conditions are not good. So with the life that is in our informal settlements, it makes life cheap. So it makes it easier for people to be accommodated in our informal settlements. It's affordable. Our informal settlements are affordable. The rents are not high.
That was Eva Mushiri speaking about cities and urbanization. What you'll be viewing next is reflections from Byron.
My name is Byron Jojadis, a member of Muungano wa Vijiji in Nakuru County, Naivasha Sub-County. I would like to share with us the experiences that the community of Kyoto have had with regards to the formation of the World Climate Change Planning Committees. This was a success based on the fact that Muungano wa Vijiji was able to be part of the very first organizations that fully took part in the formation of the 8 World Climate Change Planning Committees within Naivasha Sub-County. And this was more of a learning experience, and it was also an experience that really made us form good relationships with the county government of Nakuru. And we hope that moving forward, it's even going to be much better to make Nakuru County, the larger Nakuru County, realize all the 55 wards and therefore have access to the FLOCA funding. Now, the people of Kyoto, which is where we are today, have previously been affected by the floods, which have been as an effect of the climate change that is affecting the country at large and also affecting the world at large. And so we appreciate the milestone by the Nakuru County government into the formation of the World Climate Change Planning Committees, which are meant to help the people build more on adaptation and also resilience, and also to help them mitigate the effects of climate change. Previously, we've had such cases within this place, and people have really suffered. And based on the fact that this is an area comprising of a bigger majority of the low-income persons, it is an area that has really suffered a lot. And it's also an area that is completely qualifying to be a special planning area. And therefore, moving forward, it will also be very important that the county government, through the partnership it has with SDI, gets to give this area a priority as a special planning area so that it can also fall into the adaptation planning.
My name is David Odua, the chairperson of Kamakwaja Mtaka CBO. Kamakwaja Mtaka CBO is a youth-led organization of 30 members that started in 2019. As a group, we majorly deal with youth waste collection. We do collection in 3 areas, that is Riat, Obunga, and Kondel. After collection, which is weekly, we do separation, and our separation is mainly at the source. We separate organic, plastic, metals, glass bottles, and others. The various products we use in various activities. The organic, from the waste, we compost them to make organic manure, which we use for organic farming to grow vegetables to help the community curb food shortage. The plastics, we use them 3 purposes. One is to make cabros. We melt them, mix with sand, then make cabros, which we sell. 2, we make the bigger jerrycans and buckets we cut and use for farming as our urban gardens. The remaining plastics we take to the dealers for money that helps the CBO to grow. The other products, that is metals, we sell them as byproducts to the dealers to get money for the CBO. The bottles, we cut them to make glass tumblers, which are used for drinking waters or tea, which we also sell to the community to make money for the CBO. Effects of the climate change are greatly felt within the informal settlements because they are the most vulnerable. We as the CBO, we are working closely with the young people, women, through sensitizing on waste management, offering job opportunities to the waste pickers, and working closely with the county to ensure that our community is clean. My message to the young people is Taka and Pesa.
Thank you, Jackie, for sharing those videos for us. I believe they were quite insightful to each one of us. The first video, as you've seen, it was really touching out on the on marginalization and lack of basic needs within the communities, within the informal settlement. And Eva has brought a perspective from the Mathare informal settlement, which is one of the largest settlements within Nairobi. The second video was talking about some of the steps that the different communities have taken to try and unlock the climate finances that have been set. And it has also brought the view of inclusivity, where where the government and the communities are working together to form the ward committees to try and help the communities absorb the shockers and stressors of the climate change. And the third video was really talking about some of the actions that the young women are taking within their own spaces to try and address the climate change issues. And all that they need is for their voices and visibility to be amplified so that everyone can see what they are trying to do in their own spaces. And that was a group that is in Kisumu. It's called Jamtaka, is already trying to capitalize on recycling of the bottles and the plastic materials within their communities, as they are also trying to manage waste from their settlement. So the next session, I want to pass it to Byron, who will introduce us to the panelists, and then we can have a discussion from that. Thank you. Welcome, Byron.
Thank you so much, Stan. I hope everyone can hear me. I'd really like to appreciate you all for taking time to be part of this call. We're greatly humbled by that. Allow me to welcome our first speaker, who's going to be none other than Lizanne Onyango, and he's going to speak to us on finance and investment. And kindly, speakers, you're being allocated 4 minutes, so kindly let's be generous enough for the other speakers. Karibu sana, Lizanne.
Thank you so much, Byron. Okay, hi everyone. As Byron has said, I'm Lizanne Onyango, and I'll be talking about finance and investment and what we as SDA Kenya have done towards achieving that, towards getting the finances reach the communities that we work with. So I'll take it in the perspective that participation of people in their processes is very necessary when you want to invest or when you want to do a long-term investment, and also talk about sustainability. And we as Slum Dwellers International Kenya, we are very keen on how our communities, especially the informal settlement, people living in the informal settlements, are being engaged in making their own decisions. So we'll talk about unlocking the funds from the government and other funding agencies so that they can get to reach the grassroots level and help the people adapt to climate change and also mitigate climate change. And we'll take the aspect of adaptation planning, which is planning with the communities so that they prioritize their issues, like what we've explored in the Mukuru Special Planning Area, and also now as SDA Kenya, we are exploring it in the Madari Special Planning Area. We find that these cities have grown, in the cities and also the towns, that they generally the urban areas have grown so much, and there is an overwhelming population, and there are a lot of risks that come with that, because we find that they, as Eva stated in the video, they are the most marginalized within our communities. So when we do the adaptation planning, it addresses issues of infrastructure, that is climate proofing of the infrastructure. It addresses issues of sanitation. It addresses issues of rehabilitation and educational facilities, safety of the areas that we work, that the people live in, and it addresses issues of health and the environment. So when we talk about adaptation planning, basically what SDA Kenya, with the support of Muungano na Vijiji, has done is do the mapping of the whole settlement to see the hotspots of vulnerabilities. That is, where is prone to landslides, where are the flooding issues most likely to occur. After that is done, then they sit down with we sit down with the communities and now come up with a plan on how to adapt to these various issues that are that are happening within our settlements and areas, so that they can adapt well to to climate change. So after doing the vulnerability and after coming up with the plans, now we look at the frameworks that have been placed, that are put in place by the government to help the funds trickle down to the grassroots level. In Kenya, the funds from the government and some other agencies come through the National Treasury, then it goes down to the county, where at the county level, we have different frameworks that have been put in place, like the Climate Change Act, which the 3 cities in Nairobi, in Kenya, Nairobi, Nakuru, and Kisumu, have passed already. So within the Climate Change Act, there is a way in which these resources should be trickling down up to the grassroots level, which means it comes from the county level, then it goes to the sub-county level, then goes down to the ward climate change planning committees, as Byron described in the video. So when it gets there, which means the plans that were made with the communities are now being prioritized at this level of the planning committees, where now they prioritize them, and we find that some of these plans or interventions are now being included in the county integrated development plan and also the annual development plan, where the government right now gets them running within the communities to help them adapt better to climate change. On issues of investment, when this is done, you find that there is holistic approach to financing, and it makes the communities have sustainable systems that can help them for a long time, and that gives returns to the government in terms of investments. This adaptation planning process, it helps to reduce the effects, aiming most especially the riparian areas, and also the riparian areas and its environment, because we find that these settlements, some people have even encroached in the riparian areas. So when we do this adaptation planning, it will help reclaim these riparian areas and its environment. Then it will also help to provide for climate action funds to get to the grassroots levels, so that the interventions being done at the community level gets funding and hence sustainability. Then we also look at it in the aspect of it helps in the implementation of sustainable environmental initiative. As I said, through that process, the funds trickle down to the grassroots level, and the initiatives as seen in the videos now can be funded by the county for sustainability. That brings us to this point where I say that there should be, the community should not be passive participators in their processes, but for sustainability to happen and for finances and investment to get to the grassroots level and create impact, we need to really focus on how best we include the communities, and not only including them in the planning process, but also including them all through up to the implementation process, because that is how they will own the projects that are brought to them. They will now know how to adapt to climate change and also mitigate climate change, and also spread it. It's called the horizontal growth, where the whole community grows together, because they feel like they are part and parcel of the whole processes that are happening within their communities. So it's for us to reflect. I know some of us are from the government, different institutions, and also there are some of us who are working in the private sector. Is for us to reflect how better we can include our communities for for sustainability. Thank you, and back to you, Byron.
Thank you so much, Lizanne. How better can we include our communities for sustainability? Good takeaway there. So right now, allow me to introduce to us our second speaker, who is none other than Jane Wairutu from SDI Kenya. And she's going to speak to us on urbanization and cities. Jane, karibu.
Hi, everyone. Jane Wairutu. I will not be able to put my video on. My internet connection is fluctuating a bit. So I'm going to speak about urbanization and cities for this session. And just a brief background, but I know Lizanne has spoken about this. More than half the world's population lives in cities, and this has led to the increase in the rate of urbanization. And we are finding that population pressure has resulted to urban centers growing upwards and outwards, and there's no enough space in the cities. We are still trying to accommodate each other. Therefore, residents are seeking for affordable housing, and this has led to the emergence of informal settlements that are home to multitudes in cities. These settlements are mostly found in the reserve areas or reserve land, that is the railway and the riparian reserves. Residents who live here definitely are vulnerable to the effects of climate change, and they're the most affected within the cities. And as we all know also that the urban population, 60% is in the informal settlements. And today I'll just deepen my discussion around Nairobi County and the work that SDI has been doing in the county in collaboration with other partners and organizations, and also with state actors like the Nairobi City County. And just to start off, a background of Nairobi. In Nairobi, 60% of the urban population live in the informal settlements. And within that area of Nairobi, within the city, 6% of the land is developable, meaning it's the only land that is developed within the city. And in 2017, SDI Kenya carried out a citywide profiling and mapping process where they established that there are 158 informal settlements within the city. And most of them, like I mentioned earlier, are situated in those reserve areas. And just to mention briefly about the informal settlements in Nairobi, they are found mainly in ecologically fragile land, like the riparian reserve, landfill sites, swampy areas, and maybe many other fragile areas. And the common characteristics is that there is absence of infrastructure, therefore increasing vulnerability of residents to climate risks within the urban informal settlement. The poverty levels are also high. Therefore, communities have low capacity to deal with climate impacts. And just look at the discussion around climate change and the urban poor locally in Kenya. One thing that we know is to date right now, climate change is still a highly level discussion that is still not reaching out to the grassroots. It's sort of secluding the grassroots level of the urban poor, and yet they're the people who are the minimal, pollutants within the city. So, and they're the ones who are also affected by the impacts of climate change. And this we have seen in a case of Mukuru SPA, a planning project that was done in Mukuru, one of the informal settlements in Kenya, in collaboration with the Nairobi City County, where we did an air quality and soil testing. And the land and the soil and the water is highly polluted, and it's because of the neighboring industries. And so as a result, also the the residents are the ones that are affected by the impacts of this pollution. Also, there's the issue of the climate agenda or solutions being biased to rural agricultural areas. Yet in the urban areas, we have cases of urban heat island effects, industrial and transport related pollution, there's poor solid waste management, there's declining and polluted river riparians. And that's why we are having a rising level of water bodies, like what we have seen in Naivasha, where Byron showed the video of the rising water bodies neighboring the informal settlements or even the cities. Then secondly, climate change is not also treated, by the government and CSOs at times as a priority. It's slowly becoming a priority, but before it was not a priority yet. The impacts we are seeing are the impacts on the residents, socio-economically, culturally, and also the norms are being affected, and also even the rights of the urban poor are being violated in the process to some extent. There are also ongoing mitigation efforts on climate change among the poor currently, and we would like to just mention the ongoing mitigation and adaptation efforts that are being carried out by SPI Kenya and other groups within communities. And for now, we are looking at one of the informal settlements, one of the largest informal settlements in Nairobi, called Mathare. And we are looking at the opportunity that lies around adaptation planning. I think Lisan has mentioned this in depth. And just to explain, adaptation planning involves actions that reduce the negative impacts of change and take advantage of the emerging opportunities to build climate resilience within communities. So within Mathare, we hope to carry out this process of adaptation planning by first working together with the county to see the opportunity around declaring Mathare as a special planning area and seeing how the settlement can be improved through adaptation planning, and the opportunities that are there through the planning process when done collaboratively are we have like a community-led participatory process where the community owns the plan, they develop the plan, they come up with the solutions, and they come up, with solutions around how to improve their settlements in the process. And then one thing that that will come out of this process is it will pave way for formulation of plans and implementation of plans that are undertaken through the CIDP, that is the County Integrated Development Plans, that are 5-year plans that are developed by the county every 5 years. There's also the annual development plans that are done yearly. Then there's the climate action plans. Then there's the climate change act to respond to the needs of the people and the environment. Another opportunity is it enables CSOs to advocate and lobby for adaptation and mitigation to build resilience in settlements. This will also ensure communities have access to services and climate resilience infrastructure. This will also bring about systemic change through policy. This will also enhance the documentation, where we are going to see, or we are already forming a consortium that has the academia, has the county, the state, and the non-state actors participating in this process. And even the community is able to tell their own stories through the processes by documenting, where they are trained how to tell their stories of change, to also influence other communities when it comes to planning. Then there's also through this, how this is going to be done is by carrying out how it's going to be done. What has been done so far within Mathare is there has been a risk and vulnerability profiling process that has been undertaken, where the community carried out a research within 13 villages in Mathare and identified like the various stakeholders within the community. They created awareness on climate change issues and on the actual research. They mapped out the structures and also mapped out the population within the settlement. They mapped out the services. They also carried out focus group discussions to understand the risks and vulnerability at the individual and community level. So we hope that, we're in the process of going through the planning process, and we hope that, it will be successful. Then the other thing that is going on is the ecosystem or adaptation planning, where as part of the community-led efforts within the county or the city of Nairobi, SDA Kenya, Muungano wa Vijiji profiled 52 groups within the city. And within these 52 groups, 31 were they're located near Nairobi River. 21 groups are located near Mathare River. And most of these groups are already doing climate actions in their own small ways. They are doing waste collection to reduce pollution of the river. They are segregating solid waste towards recycling. They are also carrying out urban agriculture. They're also rehabilitating public spaces, where you're finding that they are recreating the riparian reserves into parks, where communities can use that as a path, or communities, especially youth and children, are able to use these spaces for recreation. They're also greening the ecosystem, where now they're increasing the carbon credits. Then one thing that we have seen is these groups or self-help groups and CBOs are already climate change champions within their spaces. And finally, just to say, the importance of adaptation planning is the settlements will have improved health, well-being, and quality of life in the community. Then they'll have clean and healthy environment with improved air quality. There'll be provision of infrastructure and services, building climate resilient communities, and then the process will ensure climate change funds trickle down to the grassroots levels to scale up local climate initiatives. And then there'll be implementation of environmental activity initiatives that are sustainable. Then the fact that there'll be creation of spaces that are safer and secure for the community to use. That's my presentation. Thank you all for joining our session.
Thank you so much, Jen. That was a deep dive indeed, and we really appreciate you for that presentation. I hope we are all taking notes and taking note of any questions that probably will want to ask. We shall be having a session later, so kindly note them down as we move on. Allow me to now introduce our third speaker, who is going to touch more on youth's contribution to the climate action agenda. And this is none other than Stanley Mboro. Welcome, Stanley.
Thank you, Byron, and thank you everyone for joining our session. Allow me to begin from where the two speakers have left. When we discuss about climate financing, about cities and urbanization, when we are working towards achieving cities that are, cities that are climate friendly, us unlocking the climate finance, we know we'll always talk about the young people as they are the majority, and the women as they are considered the most vulnerable. But youth and women for a very long time have been seen as just the drivers to us to addressing a certain need. which could include safety, which include health, access to quality education, and now climate change. But what we forget is that these issues affect the young people and the women directly. They are issues that they are living with. As much as they are the drivers to try and address, there are issues that are affecting them. We've noticed that there is an increased growth in the youth population over time in the global south. Right now in Kenya, we have at least 80% of our total population is comprised of the young people. And this kind of population, which involves the young women and men, is often faced by different issues, which include unemployment, lack of proper sanitation, lack of proper health, demographic stressors, a lack of political voice, and an economy that is slowly growing. So when we think about these issues, they continuously increase urban or what I would call fragility within the urban areas and the peri-urban areas. And this happens as a result of the increasingly population that moves to the cities. And as we all know, the city authority, the different counties, the different government are not able to provide basic services that could cater for such population within the cities. As we've seen in the previous videos that have been shown, we've seen already the young men and women are already doing so much to try and address the climate change issues, which include them forming themselves into groups that are aligned to mitigating and adapting the climate issues. They are also used as, a group that can easily share and create awareness around the issue of climate change. And they are also the agents of change. However, in late November last year, Muungano SDA Kenya sat with the young people to really and try to unpack the youth issue. And what we realized is that the young people are not given an opportunity for them to be at the decision-making table, as they clearly outlined during what we call the Impact Lab. And during this Impact Lab, the young people were trying to formulate a theory of transformation that can be used by the government and other CSOs to try and address the youth issue. And to our surprise, one of the issues that the young people put as an outcome area was climate-friendly cities. So what this means is that the climate discussion is not only a discussion for the elite or a discussion for academia. It's a discussion that is affecting everyone within different communities. So looking at the different issues that I mentioned earlier, the cases of unemployment, lacking a political voice, and lack of basic needs, what this means is that eventually the impact of climate change will complicate issues such as safety, food safety, economic growth, and this will make the situation a bit very difficult for the young people, hence increasing the level of fragilities within the cities. However, as I would want to call all of us here to reflect on a few questions that are aligned to the young people. So at about in March, April, Muungano conducted a research, and we identified in Nairobi we have around 536 groups of both young men and women. that are engaged in different climate action. And one of the questions we keep on asking is, should we celebrate that a lot of young people have formed themselves into groups to try and address an issue? Or should it be a call for alarm for all of us to realize that there is a gap that probably the county or the national government ought to provide, but is not providing? The other question I would call us to reflect as we discuss about the youth and the climate action discussion is that, is this discussion about climate change an opportunity for all of us to reduce the inequalities and the power dynamics that are there within the global south, and provide an opportunity for the young people and women to sit at the decision-making tables of different issues that they are facing. We also, the third area I would want us to reflect is, we cannot discuss climate change in isolation or in silo. What are the possible intersection areas that would want to view climate change? Is it the issue of security? Is it the issue of health? Is it the issue of education? Because there are already different efforts that are being put by different organizations in this space. But are we able to properly interlink the two different areas with climate change? Are we able to bring the issue of public health out well and relate it with climate change? Are we able to try and address, as the previous speakers brought it well, are we able to discuss the issue of adaptation planning with a climate change angle? Yes, but also bringing other thematic areas on board. So those are the areas that I would want us to think about, but also to try and call on all of us to try and change the narrative that has been there, that the young people can only be the drivers for us to address an issue, and forgetting that they are also affected by the different issues such as climate change. And to try and connect this with this year's International Youth Day theme, which was intergenerational solidarity, I would want to call all of us to think about, how do we support the young people, the young women, men within the space, for them to try and address the climate change issue? How do we support them? How do we offer meaningful and genuine support the young people for them to be able to address the climate change issue, but not only looking at as a climate change issue, but also having the intersectionality of other issues within their communities. Thank you. Over to you, Byron.
Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you for articulating that agenda so well. We all agree that the underrepresented groups need a voice and they have a space in this agenda. But then you also bring a very strong and quite a tricky reflection. Is this the opportunity to balance the socio-economic imbalances? Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And so allow me now, good people, to introduce to you our fourth speaker, who is going to be none other than Mr. Maurice Kavai, who is the Deputy Director, Department of Climate Change and Air Quality in Nairobi County. Mr. Maurice Kavai is going to be giving us an overview of urbanization and cities and finance and investment. Mr. Kavai, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Byron. I just want to highlight on the issues of urban adaptation with regard to climate change. And I want just to tell the audience that Nairobi City County is among the first counties or the first cities in Africa to launch their climate action plan, which illustrates very well measures which cities can be able to undertake so that they can really adapt to the rising urbanization, which is a threat, which is leading actually to global to the climate change within the city. I'll be able to share the climate action plan, the link to the climate action plan, so that the audience can also have some time to be able to go through the document if they get some time. I want to say that building urban resilience is one of the supporting action which the city of Nairobi is currently prioritizing as envisioned in the climate action plan. The special planning areas came as a result of these challenges whereby the communities faced. And it was through the vertical integration that information reached the city leadership. And this enabled the city leadership to be able to undertake measures in order to assist these communities to be able to build for the purpose of making them, adapt to the increasing challenges. We all know that increased urbanization causes a lot of strain to the existing infrastructure, that is water, electricity, and also roads. And when the communities compete on this existing infrastructure, they usually strain city governments, because city governments have to, put aside resources to be able to support these communities who form part of the urban communities. So for the county government to be able to address this kind of anomalies, it was very important for the county government to be able to look for partners who came up with vulnerability assessment, so that they could be able to understand these challenges facing these urban poor. And this was the time when we came up with, or rather we joined hands with the SDI, a partner who is very keen in improving the livelihoods of the urban poor. And with that assistance of the partners, we were able to even gazette one of those areas, a special planning area, which has enabled us as a government to be able to channel a lot of resources in trying to address issues of sanitation. Rightly, as we talk, you will find that Mukuru, for example, is when it comes to road infrastructure, the road infrastructure has really improved. When we talk about electricity, there are a lot of programs which are going on to ensure that the residents are also benefiting from the electricity, making them not vulnerable to illegal connection, which is also dangerous to them, which can lead to disasters. Before, they used to have a lot of fire disasters which were caused by illegal connection of electricity, but now those disasters have really reduced. A number of projects such as hospitals they have been constructed, and residents are able to even access healthcare in short within the areas of where they are living, meaning that the urban poor makes the urban poor now able to, in one way or the other, they cannot be vulnerable to these kind of diseases which which used to, traumatize them. The county government is also looking forward through other partnerships enshrined in the climate action plan to be able to open up these special planning areas to other partners who can also come on board and build resilience of these communities and make them, adapt to, the changing times, the climate, adapt to the issues of climate change. And one of the partner which the county government is actually focusing on is a partner who can be able to even bring on board issues of making sure that these communities have access to clean energy, so that now we can reduce issues of even air pollution, which is rampant in these areas because of use of other means of getting energy like charcoal and all that. So basically, what I can say is that building urban resilience is very key, and the city is not focusing on these special planning areas alone, but as population grows, everyone becomes vulnerable because everyone starts competing on the available resources, and these resources, when they get utilized, that is now all of us becomes vulnerable. So some of the programs which the city wants to look at is how they can be able to build resilience even on the existing infrastructure, including roads, by even constructing and drains, which really make which lead to flooding if they are not well maintained. The city is also focused in ensuring that it works on a new master plan so that they can also decongest the city. Because if everybody goes to the central business district, for example, then it means that all our streets will be congested, then issues of pollution will be on the rise. So the city is also focused on making sure that even the building codes, the ones which are used for construction, they are also improved so that they can align themselves with the global building codes. You realize that when people are constructing, the kind of technologies which people use, it's not up to date. But through partnership, through engagement with other stakeholders, and also going into consideration with what the climate action plan, when it comes to mainstreaming of the climate action plan within the sectors of the planning, the development control sectors, it will be very easy for the city to be able to ensure that development is done according, and it really supports the current, it is really adapts to the current environment. So I think I'll be able to pause at that. Then I give the mantle to Byron. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kavai. We really appreciate you. You are doing a very important job, and we'll also like to appreciate you for the impact on the work in progress you're creating on the lives of wananchi. And you've just reminded me, according to the University of Chicago's Air Quality Life Index, they tell us that air pollution kills 7 million people worldwide every year. So the fact that you take your role seriously really means a lot to us, and we'd like to thank you so much and also wish you the very best. So asante sana, Mr. Kavai. So right now, I'd like to take us a bit back to Stanley so that we can get to be prepared for the breakout room sessions. and after which we shall be coming back here to move on. Stanley, to
Thank you, Byron, for a good session that you've led. If all of you are from Muungano, I would say tumpatie umeme. But now I would like to take us to the next session, which is on the breakout room. I'm sure the team supporting us, Zizi and team, you can break us into different rooms. We are going to discuss two questions. The first room will be discussing on what collaborative approaches do or can community use to influence existing climate action policy. And the second room will be discussing what adaptation strategies will help promote sustainable development among women and the young people. The second group will be led by Eva Mushiri. The first group will be led by Byron. So Zizi and team, if you can break us into different groups, we shall appreciate.
Sorry for the technical hitches.
Welcome all of you to the main room. I hope you had short and sweet discussions within the different breakout rooms. So I will call upon Eva, Mushiri, and Byron to present, but Eva, you could go first, could present, and then we hear from Byron, and then we can go to the question and answer session.
Okay, thank you so much, Stanley. So in my session, we were discussing about what adaptation strategies will help promote sustainable development among women and young people. So most of the speakers were saying on inclusivity, let's involve the community in decision-making processes. And also let's have adaptation planning that is inclusive and youth-led activity. And also when it comes to financing the community, there was a question that was posed and it was asked on how could we inform so that you can be able to get finances from other areas for the adaptation planning processes. And also when it comes to community-led activities, actually it is always the best procedure to go about when we have when it comes to any activity or process that is on board. When involve the community, they know their priorities. And actually what we always say is that we are the problem and we are the solution. But for us to get the solution, we must include all the stakeholders within our settlements for us to get an achievable end game, of which it is an inclusive activity, which include the community. So the community prioritizes itself and knows their needs. So while we're including them in any activity, we can achieve an easy way of implementing activities. So with our adaptation planning with the youth program in SDI, after we profile them in this, I'm now answering Michelle's questions on granting and sub-granting. So we look at the conditions at which a group is situated. And for the group, we look at what are their priorities and what they want the fund to do to help them in growing their groups. So we have given them capacity on how to financial management with the Muungano Federation. We have trained them on how to manage themselves financially, how to network, how to fundraise, and also how to engage the community broadly. So what most of you were saying in this is that we get an inclusive program that is equal to the community and involves everybody in the community, not only the youth, not only the women, but everyone in the community, because climate change is affecting everybody in the community, not only the youth groups and the women groups that benefit, but it's a benefit to the whole community. So let's support the communities and let's support the youths, the youth groups and the other groups that are coming on board to support the climate action activities, and let's try and bring them on board while we are making decisions.
Thank you, Eva, for your
Back
presentation.
to you, Stanley.
Thank you, Eva, for your presentation from your breakout room. I think inclusivity is one of the issues that I'm getting from that group. And not only women and youth, but we need to bring everyone on board to this conversation. So I call on Byron to share on his thoughts. Then we can go to the question and answer, and then I'll give it back to Amanda.
Thank you, Stan. I'll be presenting what came out from room 1 breakout session. And this is what the members are saying. Our question was, what collaborative approaches can communities use to influence existing climate change policies, climate policy. So number one, use of the existing platforms and creating more safe spaces for amplification of voices, and especially amplification of the voices of the grassroots actors on climate change for movement building and finance access. Number two, building coordinated and united fronts, both with the government and non-governmental stakeholders, and also down from the communities to be proactive in engaging the key stakeholders, so that they could also be a key voice in influencing the existing policies. The other one was to agitate government to support innovations and highlight opportunities linking the urban poor with key stakeholders on innovation matters to promote socioeconomic status of these people, and also address the issue of climate change. Lastly, the other issue was to have research being given more funds allocation, and also to be fronted with regards to issues of climate change. That is all from room one. Thank you. Back to you, Stanley.
Thank you, Byron, for your feedback from the group. I'm taking three things. Amplifying of voices of what the community are doing is really key. And I even take it a notch higher and say it's not only the voices, but visibility, showcasing what different communities are doing at their own spaces. That's how we are able to win the efforts around climate action. Economic empowerment. You remember in my presentation, I talked about the intersectionality. This could also be another intersection area on economic empowerment of different community using the climate actions that they are taking, may it be making briquettes, maybe by recycling and other method. And lastly, yes, I agree. A lot of research needs to be conducted around the climate change area. We need to do the vulnerability mapping. We need to understand the climate change issues in depth. And yeah, so that's what I'm picking from room one. And thank you all of you for the good conversations that you've had in your different rooms. I now open the sessions for a question and answer. If there are any, we will be happy to take them and answer. We have a whole team here. Without any order, anyone can go with the question.
Hello, this is Morten from Plan International in Denmark. Can I jump with a quick question?
Sure, sure.
I've been really keen on this discussion around, which has centered very much on how to ensure participation, but I'm also keen to figure out how to ensure financing in ways that respect that participatory approach. And I'm trying to figure out, from a perspective of Plan International and Plan International Denmark in particular, how can we support drives for financing that are at the same time taking advantage of some of the new forms of resourcing, which is through private sector and private foundations, and at the same time be true to the participatory and involvement aspects of getting young people and women involved at all stages of this. Realize it's a difficult question to raise 3 minutes before closing, but just some perspectives, please.
Yeah, I would ask Jane to go first in responding to this.
Maybe before she responds, can I add a question?
Yeah, sure, Wanjiru.
This is Wanjiru, a member of Nyandarua County Assembly. I have previously participated in formulation of policies for the climate change in Nyandarua County, and even going to a larger extent of forming the World Climate Change Committees. But one of the challenges that we are facing is that the committees, yes, are there, they are well trained, but they lack the finances to do the climate change adaptation issues, and also to sensitize the other community on certain issues. How then can we get support to see that now the climate change committees at the local level are being funded to help sensitize the society on the climate change issues? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wanjiru. Let's have any other question before I can ask guys to respond. Any other question? So maybe I could, the second one on policy formulation around the climate change ward committees, I will ask Byron to respond on that. On the first one, I had allocated to Jen Wairutu. Jen, kindly.
Okay, I'm going to respond to the first question, but I'll also ask Maurice Kavai, the director at the county, to just also share what they're doing in terms of partnership with the private sector, what they're exploring. I think he's spoken about it in depth. But I think, there's an opportunity for the private sector to come in and support climate change actions within communities. And it's just a framework that needs to be well understood and planned out. But there's an opportunity to, to include the private sector like KEPSA in Kenya to be part of the local actions that are happening at the community level. That is, if we are able maybe to organize the groups that are doing recycling and they work with some of these private sectors through collaboration with the county, I think there's a high possibility of having a participatory method that looks at the local climate action groups, and also the groups are able to economically improve their lives and also improve the state of their informal settlements. I think the last bit of the question, I sort of missed it out, kindly, but let Maurice first.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen. I think when it comes to partnership within the climate change space, Nairobi City County is keen in getting more partners to be able to tap in new knowledge with regard to various spaces within various components. For example, either in waste management, in transport, in building, and particularly if I want to narrow down to waste management particularly in Nairobi is a challenge. Is something which the city is really open to, and we have also extended our partnerships to so many partners who have decided to pick different components of the waste, different fragments of the waste, and they are really working on them so that they can, get the resources and use them for their own, for their own growth. And this is something which has also seen the city being able to even partner with Denmark. As we talk right now, there are some of my colleagues who are also undergoing some training in Denmark with regard to solid waste management. So my friend from Denmark, I think this is the high time that we can be able to partner and see what resources we can be able to, or in terms of knowledge, what we can be able to benefit from our engagement with you. I know you have a very good system, for example, the return back system, which is not yet to be established within the city. And this return back system is capable of even employing more youths, more people, more women within the city. As for the other other opportunities which the city is also looking forward with regard to issues of urban mobility. The city is also looking forward to have partners, influence the kind of decision it is going to make when it comes to tapping of even the energy the city wants to use. So this is an open opportunity whereby partners can be able to come and present their case, argue about it, and if it aligns with the county integrated development, should be ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. And just the last bit of the question on participatory processes for the local communities to access funding at the ward level. We have an opportunity in Kenya through the devolution where we are having wards, and we have the ward climate change committees that Wanjiru mentioned. And through these ward climate change committees, then we have through various processes like the research we did where we profiled groups and we identified the ones that are doing climate actions in their communities, then they are able to also have an opportunity to showcase their, their projects and also lobby for them to be taken up at the ward level by the ward climate change planning committees, because these committees have a big role of coming up with plans around climate action within their settlements, which is quite the opportunity that they have locally. So through devolution and now the ward climate change committees, there's an opportunity to get funding through the county department of, the county departments. And also that doesn't limit them from getting financing from other private sectors, from other people like the foundations for their work. So there's an opportunity for these ward climate change committees to get funding, direct funding from not only the county, but other also private sector sector individuals and companies and foundations if they put up proposals. I think according to the Act, this allows them to directly get funds to support communities at the ward level. Thank you. And just to mention, the ward climate change committees they are formed, they're constituted of residents of a particular ward who come from the various locations that make up a ward in an area.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Go for it, Kevin.
Okay, sorry, Amanda. I would like to thank all of you and for joining the session. I hope you've enjoyed the session. We reach out to each one of you and try and answer the many questions maybe you may have. Jane had shared our website link on the chat, so you can follow through and reach out to us. And Amanda, apologies for going 5 minutes late, but the session was good. And I bring it back to you. Thank you.
It's not a problem. It was very, very interesting and insightful. And I think we ended on a very good note because, Jane, I think you were then able to answer a lot of questions that people had about, what are the enabling funding frameworks that are available for people to tap into, and what frameworks are there to ensure that financing trickles down from national to county, right down to the community level. So I think you've just provided a lot of information in that regard. So I think we closed on a very good and a positive note. And in that regard, I'd like to officially close the session and thank you everyone for your rich engagements and for the rich discussions and the rich and insightful inputs. And we'd like to invite you to move over to the last session for the day, which is currently taking place. So you're gonna click the leave button at the right of your, bottom right of your Zoom screen, and then you're going to go back to the lobby and you should be able to select the next session, which is currently underway. You might be able to catch it as they're probably just starting with the introductions, and that will be hearing from the Tunisian Youth Impact, and they will be talking us through water scarcity and gender in Tunisia. So it seems like it's also going to be quite an interesting, and we just had a conversation now about, the role that young people can play in locally led adaptation strategies. So there might be connections there, and one or two things we can pick up. So we invite you to join the next session, and also, the program is continuing tomorrow as well, kicking off at 9:30. So you're also welcome to join, and also to share the link and the invitation to your wider networks. And I think that's it from my side. Thank you. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.